This is Algebra 1, Lesson 8.4. Today we're going to look at factoring polynomials that have a coefficient out in front of the x squared other than 1. But first we're going to start with our warm-up. So for the first three, we're going to find the product and we're going to FOIL. So remember, we take our first, so that's 2x squared. I'm going to combine my O and my I for the FOIL. So remember, O and I are your outer and inner. So I'm going to have a negative 4x here and a positive 7x. So when I combine that, that makes a positive 3x. And then my last is negative 14. Okay? So in this next one, I'm going to have 6x squared, or y, that should be a y. And then my inner is 8y and my outer is 27. So 8y and 27y is 35y. And then my last is plus 36. Okay, so my first is 3n squared. My inner is negative 5n and my outer is negative 21n. So when I combine them, I'm going to get negative 26n. And then negative 5 times negative 7 is positive 35. Okay, on these next three now, we're going to factor. So we know that since they're all just the regular variable, we can start with our x times x. So we need to figure out what multiplies, oh, and remember that if I have a negative sign here, I've got to have an opposite here, and I'm going to have bigger of the positive since the middle is positive. So what multiplies together to give me 32 and adds to give me 4? Well, we can combine 4 and 8. 4 and 8 in some way to give us 4. So if my middle is positive, I know I want the 8 to be positive and the 4 to be negative, so that I subtract 4 from 8. And that will give me this positive 4x. Okay, for this next one, I have a z and a z. And then I know that I'm going to have the same sign, and it's going to be positive. So what multiplies to give me 36 and adds to give me 15? The only one pair that works is 12 and 3, because 12 times 3 is 36, and 12 plus 3 is 15. And then on this last one, I've got h and h. And I know I'm going to have the same sign, since this is positive, and that sign is going to be negative, so that my middle becomes negative. So the two numbers that multiply together to give me 72, but add to give me 17, are 9 and 8. So if I have a negative 9h and a negative 8h, if I combine those, I'm going to get negative 17. So like I said, we're going to look at factoring trinomials that have a coefficient out in front, so they're not going to just be x squared plus, I don't know, something x plus some number. It's going to actually have something out in front here now that we have to factor even further. So again, we've looked at the basics so far. We're going to look at when we have a coefficient other than 1. So if we look at the two binomials, 3x plus 2 times 2x plus 5, you'll notice that the coefficient of the x squared term is the product of 3x and 2x. Okay? Also, the constant term in the trinomial, so this term, is the product of the constants in the binomial. So it's going to be these times these, give me this number, and then this times this gives me this first number. And the middle number comes from combining my O and my I, my inner and my outer. To factor a trinomial that has a number other than 1 out in front of the x squared into binomials, we still write two sets of parentheses. So we know that we're going to have an x times x, but there's going to be some number here in front of the x. And then two numbers that are factors of this first one. So we need to know what are factors of this first term, so things that multiply together to give me that first term. And then these numbers, sorry, let's get out of that. These numbers multiply together to give me this last term. Okay, I think this is easier if we just look at a general example first. So I'm going to factor 6x squared plus 11x plus 4. So we need two sets of parentheses, okay? And again, this is going to take some guessing and checking. So my first terms are going to be something x, something x. So what multiplies together to give me 6? I can either use 6 and 1, or I can use 2 and 3, okay? I'm going to try 2 and 3, okay? Now, I know that I need the same sign in between, and that sign is going to be positive. So now for this last term, I need multiples or factors of 4 but I know that once I put these in, so I'm going to try 2 and 2. I could try 4 and 1 or 2 and 2. I need to check that my inner and outer add up to give me 11x. So what's 2 times 3x? That's 6x. And then 2 times 2x is 4x. So does that combine to give me 11? Well, it doesn't. So that actually didn't work. So that guess and check one didn't work. So we're going to try a different set. So we can change one of two things. We can either pick different numbers out here, or we can pick different numbers out here. I would try picking one first. Don't try changing them both at the same time. So I'm going to keep the 2x and the 3x this time, and I'm going to do 4 and 1. However, I know that if I put the 4 here, right here, that's going to be 4 times 3, which is 12, and then 1 out here is going to be 1 times 2. 12 and 1 cannot, they can combine to give me 11. However, I know that I have to add both together, so 12 plus 1 won't equal 11. That would equal 13. So I need to put the 4 here and the 1 here, and then I need the same sign. So if I check, I've got 2 times 3 is 6x squared. And then my inner is 3x, and my outer is 8x. So what's 8x plus 3x? It is 11x. And then my last is plus 4. So this is your factored trinomial. Just to let you guys know, this does take time. You have to try some, and if it doesn't work, you erase it and you start over. Okay, it's a guess and check thing. So to factor ax squared plus bxc, check the factors of a and the factors of c in the trinomial. So we need to know what are factors of this term and factors of this term. And then the sum of the products, so the sum of the products of the inner and outer are what make up that b value. All right, so let's try another one. So we know we need 2 sets of parentheses. Now the only factors of 2 are 2 and 1. So that's our only option to put out in front. So that kind of helps. And we know that we need the same sign, and that sign is going to be positive. So what numbers multiply to give me 21? Well, I've either got 21 and 1 or 7 and 3. If I use 7 and 3, I've got to think about where to put them. If I put the 7 here and the 3 here, this is going to give me 7x and 6x. Does 7x and 6x add up to 17? No, it does not. So let's try them in a different place. So let's try flipping the 7 and the 3. Let's put the 3 here and the 7 here. So 3 times 1 is going to give me 3x, and then 7 times 2 is going to give me 14x. So 14 plus 3, that does equal 17. So this is the correct way of doing it. And if you guys noticed, I checked, it didn't work, so I had to try a different one, and that's okay. Remember, when the b is negative, so the middle term is negative and c is positive, the factors have to both be negative. Okay, so if this is positive, we know it needs to be the same sign, but if this is negative, those signs are both negative. Okay, so we know we're going to need the same sign in between, so I can already put those in. And then things that multiply to give me 3x squared, the only option is 3x and 1x. So that's, again, a nice, we can't try anything different on that first part. Okay, so factors of 16. We can either try 16 and 1 or 4 and 4. 16 and 1, if I put the 16 here and the 1 here, 16x and 3x, those do not combine to make 16x. So I know that that's not going to work. So I'm going to try 4. So I'm going to try 4 and 4. So this is going to give me negative 4x. This is going to give me negative 12x. Negative 12x plus negative 4x, that does equal negative 16x. So we are correct here. Again, if you guys want to pause the video and try the ones before I try it, that would be really helpful for you, I think. Okay, so I know that I need the same sign, and since it's a minus in the middle, that's going to be a negative. Now, things that multiply to give me 9x, I can either try 3x and 3x, or I can try 9x and 1x. Okay, let's try the 3x and 3x. Just, those are smaller numbers, so I usually just try my smaller numbers first. And then things that multiply to give me 4 are 4 and 1, or 2 and 2. If I did 2 and 2, I'm going to get negative 6x, negative 6x. If I combine those, that equals negative 12x, which is not what I need in the middle. So I know that doesn't work. Again, you guys just get used to retrying different numbers, and that's okay. So I'm going to try 4 and 1. It doesn't matter where I put it since it's both multiplied by 3. So negative 12x here, negative 3x here. If I add negative 12 and negative 3, that does equal negative 15, so this is correct. Okay? If the C value is negative, so let me show you. If this is negative, then the signs are going to be opposite. We're going to have a plus and minus, and this tells us which one I'm going to have more of. Okay, so I need 2 parentheses. I know that I'm going to have opposite signs, and I'm going to have more of the positives. I'm not going to write those signs in yet because I don't know where they're going to go quite yet. So I'm going to start by factoring this first term. The only options I have are 1 times 3. Okay, so now my options are 4 and 1 or 2 and 2. All right, if I did 4 and 1, okay, let's think about that. If I did a 4 here and a 1 here, I'm going to have 4 and 3. Can I combine 4 and 3 to make 11 in any way? No, I cannot. So that's not going to work. Let's try. Let me draw this back in. Let's try 4 here and 1 here. Okay, if I have 4 times 3, that's going to be 12, and 1 times 1 is going to be 1. How can I make 11 out of that? Well, I know that I need more of the positives, so I need the 12 to be positive, and I need the 1 to be negative, so that when I combine it, I'm going to get 1n and 4n, so or 12n, and negative 1n. So negative 1n and positive 12n equal positive 11. So this is your factored trinomial. Okay, let's try another one. So I know I need opposite signs since this is negative, and I'm going to need the bigger one to be positive since there's more positives. I'm not going to write them in yet because I know I need 2x and an x, and I don't know where I'm going to put my signs yet. So my factors of 18, I can do 1 and 18, 2 and 9, or 3 and 6. I'm going to try 3 and 6. If I put the 6 with the x, that's going to be 6 times x, and if I put the 3 here, that's going to make 6 as well, and 6 plus 6 does not add up to 9, okay? So I'm going to try the 3 here and the 6 here. Well, that would give me 3x in my inner and 12x in my outer. Can I combine those in any way to make 9? Well, I can. If I have 12 minus 3, I will get 9. So I know that I need positive 12 and negative 9. So if you check, I'm going to have 2x squared. My inner is negative 3x, and my outer is positive 12. So when I combine those, I get positive 9x. And then my last is negative 18. So this was the correct factored form. Okay, let's try another one. So I know that I'm going to need opposite signs and more of the negatives. I'm not going to put them in yet, though, because I know that I have options for 4x. I know that I could do 2 and 2 or 4 and 1. So I'm going to try 2x and 2x first. Okay, if I try 2x and 2x, I know that with this, I can also do 2 and 2 or 4 and 1. If I did 2 and 2, I'm going to have 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 and 4 do not combine to give me 15. So let's think about if I tried 4 and 1. If I tried 4 and 1, I would get 8, and I would get 2. Can I combine 8 and 2 in any way to get 15? No, I could only make 10 or 6 out of that. So that's not going to work. So neither of those work. So let's try different numbers in the front. Let me get my pen back. So I'm going to try 4x and 1x. And then I'm also going to try, 4 and 1 here. Well, if I did 4 times 4, that would be 16, and 1 times 1 would be 1. So if I take 1 away from 16, I can get 15. But I need the negatives to be the bigger of the two. So I need the negative to go with the 16 and the positive to go with the 1. So this is my factored trinomial, because if I check, I get 4x squared, then I get negative 15x, and then the last is negative 4. Sometimes it's helpful to pull out a negative 1 from each term before using any factoring if your first coefficient is negative. So let me show you. So if you notice negative 2x squared minus 5x minus 3, that's really hard to factor with a negative out in front. So you should pull a negative 1 out, and if you pull that out, it's going to make all the signs the opposite. And then you can just factor. However, you need to keep that negative 1 with everything. You can't just drop it off. It has to stay on the outside. So I'm going to do 2x and x, and then my options for 3 are just 3 and 1. And I know if I need to make 5, I'm going to do 3 and 1 because both have to be positive. I'm not going to put the 3 over here. So your answer is negative 1 times 2x plus 3 times x plus 1. I'm going to go ahead and give you the answers to these. So if you want to pause the video and try these to make sure that you can do them. Again, you guys, this does take time, okay? I had to sit here and solve these and try different numbers, and if it doesn't work, you just try other ones. So for this first one, it's going to be 5x and 1x, and then both are going to be positive, and it's going to be 2 and 3. For this next one, I can only do 2x and 1x, and then I need them to be opposite signs, but I don't know where yet. It's going to be 3 and 4. 3 times 1 is going to give me 3. 4 times 2 is 8. So if I combine those, if I have, I need more of the positives, so I need this to be positive and this to be negative. For this next one, I already have tried, I tried 6 and 1, and that didn't work, so it's going to be 3 and 2. And then my options are 7 and 1, and I'm going to have 7 times 3 to give me 21, and 2 times 1 to give me 2. And then they're both going to be negative, so that I get a negative 23 here. For this next one, I'm going to take out a negative 1 first. So then I'm going to be left with 4x squared minus, it's going to be the opposite sign, 11x minus 20. And now I can factor it. You have to keep that negative sign with it, though. I've already done this one. I've tried 2 and 2, and I know that didn't work. So it's 4x and 1x. It's plus 5 and a minus 4. And again, I had to figure that out. I had to try it. This next one, I'm also going to pull out a negative 1. So negative 1. And it's going to flip the signs of everything. So make sure you're using opposite signs. And then I'm going to factor. So it's going to be 2x. I have to keep that negative 1 out in front. And I know to make 7, I'm going to do the 3 times the 2 to make 6, and the 1 times the x to make 1. And then they're both going to be negative to make negative 7. And then on this last one here, I tried 2 and 4, and that didn't work. So it's 8x and 1x. And then the options for 9 are either 9 and 1 or 3 and 3. I already know that it's 3 and 3 because 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 8 is 24, and if you add those, that will give you 27. So just be aware, you guys, it takes time. You have to try some numbers. They might not work. You can always check your answer by just foiling, okay? So don't forget that you can always check by foiling.